level, 1.8. So in that case, China total population will continue to increase up to the peak will be the 1.47 billion. So it's about the 120 million more Chinese will be born if we base on the current fertility level. Then, if the policy was relaxed, so it means on average Chinese couple can have 2 children for every Chinese couple. Then total Chinese population will reach about the 1.6 billion. So and the peak year of the Chinese population growth, if the 2 children per family scenario, so the Chinese population will continue to grow up to the year 2050, then stabilized, then decline. But if we maintain the current fertility rate, then it will reach the peak of the Chinese population around the year 2035, then stabilize it, then to decline. So if the, but of course there are another kind of the projections said, okay, if we based on the 1.5 fertility, then total Chinese population will reach something like the 1.4 billion, then stop grow, then the stabilized.
In what year?
Then will be around the 2025. Yeah, so if we assume that the total fertility rate is 1.5. But of course, if the 1.5, we based on that projections, 300 years later, the total Chinese population will be only 75 million total Chinese. So that's some kind of scenario, projection scenario. Then I show you the government population target. That means by the year 2010, within 1.36 billion, now it's definitely we can reach that target. By the year 2020, around 1.45 billion. So that's the government target. So that's what I want to know that the general population situation. Then, in addition to this kind of population size and population growth, Chinese population actually is the aging structure. Age structure of Chinese population is changing very rapidly over the last half a century. Here we can see that the age pyramid in China. So this is the PDF version, so this cannot be animated, but actually my original PPT can use the animation. So actually we can see that in the 1950s, China's age structure is very typical, the pyramid-like, because the bottom is very big, the top is very small. But with the years to pass, the Chinese population become older and older. This kind of very elderly population now in China become a big issue. We can see the changes in age structure. You see, in the 1970s, about 40% of Chinese are younger than 15 years old. So, but nowadays, less than 20% of Chinese are younger than 15 years old. Then, on the other hand, we see the rapid increase of the elderly population. So, in that case, we can see that over the last 30 or 40 years, Chinese really, the abundant labor force, abundant young labor force in China, it's the case over the last 40 years. But this will no longer the case in the next 10 to 20 years. So Chinese population becomes rapidly aging. Not only the entire population is aging, but also the labor force is rapidly aging. We can say that's the aging trend in China. So this, in general, we can say at this moment in China, we have the elderly population, more than 100 million Chinese are older than 65 years old. And if we use the 60 years as a criteria for the population aging, then at this moment, 160 million Chinese are older than 60 years old. So more than the total population of Japan. In Japan, we got the population of 128 million last year. So although the the percentage of Chinese elderly population is not so big, but the absolute number of Chinese elderly population is huge. And we expected the elderly population will increase to more than 350 million by the year 2050. So that will be the huge increase of the China's elderly population. So by that time, India will be the largest populated country in the world, but China will remain as a country with the largest elderly population in the world. So that's, and also Chinese population will become older compared to the American population. So at this moment, the American population in general is older than Chinese, but then quite soon, around the year 2040 or 2035, Chinese will be much older than the American. But of course, at this moment, the total fertility rate in America is 2.1, is the highest among all the OECD countries. But China's total fertility rate is only about between 1.5 to 1.8. So the China fertility is much lower compared to the American ones. So that's the age structure. Then some words about the urbanization. By the end of 2008, more than 600 million mainland Chinese are classified as urban residents. The rate in the year 2000 was 36%. So it means every year there will be 1 percentage point of Chinese are transferred from the rural population to an urban population. So roughly speaking, every year there will be 13 million Chinese farmers become urban residents. So that's also a very rapid urbanization process happening in China. So we can see the percentages. But once again, I remind you that you should be careful about the definition of the urban and the rural. But usually this kind of the urbanization only counts those people living in the urban areas longer than half a year. So many of these kind of temporary migrants are excluded from this calculation. If we put all these migrants, rural-urban migrants, into the calculation, the China's urban percentage of the urban population will be even higher than that figure. So the rapid growth of the China's urban population, on the one hand, is the result of China's rapid economic development. On the other hand, is also caused by the China's government policy or development strategy to urbanize China. Because for a long time, the Chinese government purposely restricted the development of bigger cities, like that in Shanghai, Beijing, or these kind of bigger cities. For a long time, Chinese government encourages the development of small or medium-sized cities. But over the last 20 years, the Chinese government changed their mind. So they treated the rapid urbanization as one of the very efficient way for the poverty alleviation. So also at that time, the government encourages the development of the bigger cities. So that's make all the cities, like in Shanghai, the population of Shanghai grow very, very fast. In the year 1980, or in the year 1985, or even the year 1990, the total population in Shanghai is something like 14 million. At this moment, the native Shanghainese, or the people hold Shanghai's household registration status, it means they are regarded as Shanghai citizens. So it's remained more or less the 14 million. But in Shanghai at this moment, there are 6 million migrants living in Shanghai. Among that 6 million, 4 million of them have been in Shanghai longer than 1 year. So it means this kind of urbanization strategy really makes these kind of bigger cities even bigger. And in Shanghai, people or scholars or government are talking about what will be the peak population in Shanghai. Some economists said, okay, Shanghai can accommodate about the 50 million living in Shanghai. But as we are development study specialists or demographers, we said, if a city with a 50 million population, how to handle this 50 million in a single city? So it's almost impossible for the sustainable life or sustainable development in such bigger cities. So there's also the debate about the size optimum population in Chinese bigger cities. with this kind of rapid urbanization,